Okay, it's November 6th, and it looks like John Brennan is going to be the next to be indicted. Everyone kind of knows this. John Brennan was on the list, but basically, U.S. attorneys in the Southern District of Florida are preparing grand jury subpoenas related to the case, and Brennan's indictment seems likely to follow. Yeah, I didn't need this news article to tell me this. We all know that John Brennan is next, along with James Comey, that just happened, and John Bolton, that just happened. And James Clapper will probably be next after Brennan. Um, this is just how it goes. And basically, they're doing the indictments really slowly, and it should be expedited. But here we are. I don't know why Pam Bondi's taking her time, but it looks like John Brennan will be next, which is what I've been saying for a long time since Comey got indicted. I said Brennan's next, and then Clapper, and then we'll see after that. Hopefully Hillary Obama, but we'll see. But yeah, it looks like John Brennan's going to be next, and they did this with Comey right before he got indicted. They had to fire some district attorneys, and they basically had to fire some people and put some new people in that would actually do the indictments because the evidence is there, the criminal referrals are there, and these people still weren't indicting. So that's just the fun stuff you got to deal with when you have a deep state. And but yeah, Brennan's next. I mean, you could tell anyway. His past few interviews, he's literally scared. He can't sit still, and he's just yelling. Yeah, that's not an innocent person. And yeah, so it looks like John Brennan will be next. Hopefully, Clapper will follow because that's what it's been looking like this whole time. So yeah, get ready. Hopefully, John Brennan doesn't die before he's indicted because yeah, these people might kill themselves, to be honest. I mean, if they already know they're going to get indicted. So looks like John Brennan's next, and that should hopefully solve some issues in regards to the Russiagate thing. I mean, everyone knows Russiagate was a false narrative and a fake story. And this was all done by John Brennan. You can read his emails, you can read his WikiLeaks, where he's literally emailing Obama saying, yes, I'll lie, I'll go with it. And Obama actually ordered him to do this, which is illegal. So that's why Obama will be indicted hopefully soon as well. But before you get to Obama, you got to get through these guys. So John Brennan should be next. I think he will be next. And then I think Clapper after that. So tick tock, tick tock. We'll see how long it takes for them to do that. And then in other news, U.S. supercarrier to reach Caribbean next week as military buildup near Venezuela grows. So we're just adding more fuel to the fire. This is the USS Gerald R Ford. It's been here and there, but it's gonna go and stay in the Caribbean. It says early next week. So that's just gonna add more ships to. We already have like 10 ships there, and now we're adding the USS Gerald R Ford, which is a huge ship, by the way. So the U.S. is mounting their presence in Venezuela, and a strike is definitely going to be happening soon. Here's a picture of it, by the way. This is a legit aircraft carrier. And yeah, so U.S. is going to strike Venezuela because they have natural resources that we want. Venezuela's not manufacturing and sending drugs as much as the news probably says. They are, but that's not why we're going after them. And also, the administration doesn't want Maduro in. They want regime change, but they're trying to do it in a way that doesn't require ground invasion or ground offensive. And they're basically trying to manipulate people into hating Maduro. Um, that's why they put a bounty on him, $50 million, as soon as Trump came in. But none of his generals and army people have betrayed him yet, and they didn't do that the first time Trump was into, and Trump was putting maximum pressure on them. So I don't know what this ship's gonna really do. I mean, Maduro's not budging, and Venezuela's not budging. So it looks to me that the U.S. is just gonna have to strike Venezuela and get this over with. But the U.S. does want a response. The U.S. does want Venezuela to act in self-defense so that they can have an excuse to do even more strikes and blah blah blah. But basically, the U.S. is trying to hurt Venezuela as much as they can without actually doing regime change. So we'll see what they end up doing. But a strike is definitely going to be happening. I mean, Venezuela has so much resources um, that the U.S. wants. I don't know how they can get those without a ground offensive, but we'll see what they do with the strike first. I do expect it to be probably soon, maybe next week, because that's when this ship is going there. And so time will tell. We'll see. But this big carrier is now on its way. Just adding to the list of everything. And then today, Israeli jets strike southern Lebanon towns, escalating near daily attacks. Yeah, so this isn't anything new, and this actually happened today. Today's Thursday. Anyway, Israel does not abide by their peace plans, obviously, and they're not going to. You know, Israel has a real problem because the only thing they want right now, the only thing they want is to go to war with Iran or to have the United States go to war with Iran. But Trump is not necessarily giving them that offer because even with his strikes on Iran with the bunker busters, that was still, that couldn't have done it. Trump couldn't have done that any more secretive and coordinated than the way he did. And that's not what Israel wants. Israel wants a full on conflict with Iran and the United States, that the United States will go to war. The young Christian men will go die in that war fighting Iran. And then Israel will have total hegemony over the region. And of course, the US would like their oil fields, I'm sure. But basically, Israel's not going to abide by any peace plan because their ultimate goal is to take out Iran. And under no circumstances are they going to allow anything to get in between. But they're kind of in a tough situation because Trump does not want to go to war. And he keeps saying that he doesn't want to go to war. But Israel is kind of in the background, like, yeah, but we need to go to war. So we're in false flag territory again. I'm sure Israel's going to accuse Iran of trying to start a nuclear weapons program again, just like the past 50 years. So, well, Trump has to be smart because Trump can't just listen to the people around him that are telling him we need to go to war with Iran. And the problem is, Trump is surrounded by a lot of people who basically are Zionists, you could say, and they definitely want to go to war with Iran. I don't see Marco Rubio saying no to that. I see JD Vance saying no to that, but there's a lot of people Trump is connected to that are probably already telling him in private to go to war with Iran. But the thing is, Trump wouldn't go to war with Iran unless Iran did something crazy. And Israel knows that, so Israel might try to stage a false flag that's crazy enough to get Trump to take action on Iran again. But anyway, this is nothing new. Israel's going to do another strike on some country in the next few days, I'm sure. And Trump can't be happy about this. He keeps trying to tell people there's peace in the Middle East. There's not. Israel and Hamas are not abiding by the peace plan. Hamas is not. Israel's not. You know, and that's always going to be the case. So Israel's probably planning a false flag to drag the United States into war with Iran as we speak, because the initial attacks on Iran that Trump did wasn't effective enough for Israel, even though they got exactly what they wanted. Israel does not want this to end at any time, especially Netanyahu, because he needs the war to keep going so he doesn't go to prison for standing down on October 7th. So don't worry, Israel will strike again. That won't be the end of that story. And then here, Putin directs ministries to prepare proposals for potential nuclear tests. So we've been talking about this. Um, Putin already said this publicly a few days ago. He said he wants to do some nuclear tests, and today he actually said he wants to see live tests, which means Putin will literally sit there with his generals and watch them drop a nuke live, you know. So anyway, it's a big deal because Russia has a history of doing this. Russia has a history of testing nukes um, that almost kill everybody. So I don't know how many people know about the Tsar Bomba, but the Tsar Bomba was the biggest nuclear warhead ever created by Russia, and they tested it over Siberia, and it was on film. And it was such a big explosion that it almost killed a lot of people inside of Russia, and it left craters and decaying of the forest that's still there. If you Google Earth where they did it, you'll still see the burn marks on the ground. It's basically uninhabitable still, and that was a long time ago. So this is a little interesting because after they did that, they basically said, "We're never going to do that again. We're sorry," because it scared a lot of people, especially in Middle East and Asia that were closer. They were like, "What the heck was that?" Um, so Russia has a history of testing nuclear weapons that always tend to be more explosive than they intend to. So whenever they do this test, I'm going to be watching because there's a possibility that it could go bad and it could actually kill some people. Uh, because that was a long time ago, and I'm sure the nukes they have now are even stronger. So, but anyway, Putin already talked about this. He claims that the United States plans to deploy missiles in Europe and the Asia Pacific region that would have flight time from Germany to Central Russia in 6 to 7 minutes. Yes, that's true. Um, Hillary Clinton even said that before the 2016 election. She went on TV and told everyone exactly how long it takes for the nukes to go, which is totally she wasn't allowed to do that. And that's an accurate estimation. And the NATO chief was urging Europe today to spend more on military production and defense production. So this was not directly a result of that thing that the NATO chief said, because again, Putin already said this days ago that he was going to do this. So it's not just because the U.S. is going to deploy missiles in Europe, but I'm sure that is a reason. But anyway, yeah. So this better be done correctly. No one knows what or when this is going to happen yet, but yeah, Russia just has to be careful because the world already doesn't really like them, and if this nuclear test goes bad, they have some explaining to do. So let's not have another Tsar Bomba moment. And then here's the main story today. Russian spy agency claims the West is planning false flag attack on nuclear power plant. So basically, a think tank was projecting that the United States and the West is going to stage a false flag on nuclear power plants to continue the war because, like we've been talking about, Ukraine's being encircled, they're being completely cut off, they're being completely surrounded. Ukraine's dying, it's done. Ukraine won't be a country in a couple years because all their soldiers are literally dying every day. Um, Yeah, so basically, the spy agency said that one proposal put forward by Ukraine's Western enablers would result in significant civilian casualties. The proposal was deemed to be the most effective option. And this isn't anything new. We all know that Ukraine has already done false flags in this war. Ukraine literally launched missiles into Poland. They tried to blame Russia. It turned out Zelensky did that. And they've done other stuff with the drones as well. So Ukraine is not afraid to do a false flag to make it look like Russia did something. Kind of like how Israel's trying to do right now with Iran. They're going to try to do an attack that makes it look like it was Iran. Ukraine's going to do the same thing, and but not even just Ukraine, the West. I mean, Europe wants this war to continue forever and ever and ever and ever. So don't be surprised if European nations work together with Ukraine to develop a false flag attack that would make Russia look bad so that the war has to continue. The problem is, it's the 21st century, and I don't know how much they can get away with that because everyone's watching, even Israel, because everyone's watching. Everyone's watching Ukraine, everyone's watching Israel, everyone's watching both what they do because they know that they done false flags before, so you can't just trust them. So, and obviously Ukraine's dying, they're desperate, so this is like almost a guarantee that they're gonna do something like this. It might not be exactly this because now we know about it, but they've been talking about doing a false flag on nuclear power plants for a while, this since this war began, just to continue the war, continue the funding, continue the death. Um, but I'm sure Russia is fully aware of this because Russia's been aware of Ukraine's false flags as well. Russia already said that Ukraine was going to do those false flags that they already did, like the missiles into Poland and the drones. Russia already said that, like, hey, they might do this. And then they did. So Ukraine's desperate, so don't be surprised if they actually do this. It would be insane. It would be suicidal. And this is the actual nuclear plant that they're talking about. But like I said, because they're singling this one out and now it's on the news, kind of, um, maybe they'll do a different power plant. But like, there's Ukraine has a few power plants in the whole country, so it doesn't have to be exactly that one. But it would be a great target because it would cause a lot of death immediately. So keep your eye on Ukraine, keep your eye on Israel because they're both up to no good right now. And yeah, they're bold. They're really bold, which means they're not afraid. So let's go through some headlines. Um, let's see. Second Circuit issues stunning ruling on Trump's New York criminal case. Yeah, that's still going on, apparently. Judges just have ultimate authority these days. Mamdani's team halts interviews, won't say if Schumer should face election challenges. He lunches with AOC. Yeah, so Mamdani's already asking people for money. So that should probably tell you where we're heading in New York. Um, James Carville would bet a lot of money that Dems will pack Supreme Court if they regain power. Yeah, we already know that. Everyone knows the Democrats will go on an extreme revenge tour if they get back into power. And a lot of people go to prison for no reason. Da 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 da. Trump says Dems are kamikaze pilots amid longest government shutdown in U.S. history. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the Democrats are only making their party look bad because if you look at the numbers, like the majority of people don't believe this is Trump's fault. So that's why the Democrats should open up the government because they're making themselves look bad. I mean, they're making their own party look bad. Mamdani only won votes to 14% of New York City adults. I'm pretty sure it's more than that. But the main demographic was people born in New York and people that were foreign born. That was the main demographic. That's why Mamdani won. A woman who admitted to being an illegal wins mayoral election in St. Paul, Minnesota. Yeah, that's true. I saw that. She was campaigning on being an illegal immigrant and she won. But this was in St. Paul, Minnesota. I mean, basically Los Angeles. So she was gonna win that election, whether she said that or not, in my opinion. House Speaker Johnson to go around Schumer to end shutdown fight. Yeah, we'll see. I think Schumer is gonna have to open up the government just because it's making them look bad. So we'll see if Johnson even has to do that. ICE takes down dozens of illegal alien truckers in Oklahoma. Yeah, I saw that. This has to happen every day. I mean, with the amount of illegal immigrants in the country, like dozens is not a lot when we're talking about 50 million. Tom Homan promises New York City immigration raids will continue. Well, yeah. Um, Mamdani said that he's going to protect the illegal immigrants, and then Trump literally said on TV that we'll just arrest Mamdani. So Trump and Homan, specifically Trump, they got to take the gloves off. They can't keep letting these mayors halt their agenda. I mean, if the mayors are aiding and abetting in illegal aliens staying here, then you need to arrest the mayors. And you just have to do that. Maine voters just sacrifice gun rights for the illusion of security. Yeah, Maine is not really like a populated place. I mean, because of this ruling in Maine, it's not gonna, I'm not worried about it. Maine is very democratic, it's very liberal, and almost nobody lives there. So it's not really anything to be concerned about. Mass migration allowed a Ugandan socialist to become mayor of New York City. Yeah, basically the end of that. That's Mamdani in a nutshell. Leader of Germany says hundreds of thousands of immigrants in this country must go back. Wow. So I guess Germany is learning a hard lesson, but is it too late? And are they actually going to deport these people? You know, it's easy to say that, but are you going to actually mobilize troops or ICE to deport these people? Because if you don't actually deport them, Germany's going to die, basically. Um, Biden's green new scam in the crosshairs as GOP lawmakers ask where the money went. um, yeah, Biden had a lot of green scams. Um, yeah, I don't even need to go into that. A lot of Biden's policies were just straight up money laundering. DHS responds to viral illegal alien daycare arrest claim narrative implodes. Yeah, they're saying they arrested a daycare person and then they said they weren't. It's whatever. I mean, ICE has to deport illegal aliens. What doesn't matter what job they're doing. Trump reduces tariffs on China in exchange for fentanyl crackdown. Yeah, like I said, China and Trump they had their meeting in South Korea with President Xi, Winnie the Pooh, and Winnie the Pooh and Donald Trump they talked about fentanyl, like I said, and they're making deals. And again, President Xi, Winnie the Pooh, is coming back to the U.S. in the beginning of the year. So this won't even be the end of this. Trump is hard on fentanyl right now, and he's probably going to be even harder when they sit down and finalize these deals. ADP reports private sector hiring increased by 42,000 more than expected. Yeah, Trump talked about this yesterday. Almost all the jobs that were created were in the private sector, which is what we voted for. We don't want more bureaucrats, we want more private sector jobs, and that's exactly what we're getting. And 42,000 more than expected. So the economy is really going to start booming in quarter 1 of next year. That's what Scott Bessent said. So if we're getting numbers like this, and it's not even quarter 4 yet, I believe. Oh no, we're in quarter 4 now. Um, so that's really good. That means we're kind of ahead of schedule. So just wait till quarter 1. Bitcoin drops below 100,000 for first time since June. Yeah, good time to buy. Bitcoin is not going anywhere. Um, yeah, good time to buy. I would actually buy Bitcoin right now because this is going to jump up way higher soon. Bitcoin is very reliable, in my opinion. IBM announces layoffs of thousands of employees before year end of year. Yeah, this probably has to do with some AI programs as well. A lot of companies are doing a lot of layoffs because they're implementing AI, which is a little scary. Yeah, that's about it. Um, Nothing too crazy today. Nothing like, insane. I think people are still getting over the election, and, you know, people in New York they're going crazy because a lot of people are like already leaving. They're already packing up and going. And some people are like gonna hold it out. Um, we'll see what happens there. And uh, Israel's gonna do some more strikes eventually. Hamas will also do some stuff as well. So there is no peace deal, in my opinion. The Gerald R Ford is heading to Venezuela to add to our fleet of just absolute nonsense military equipment over there. I mean, we have more military equipment over there than we did in Iraq. All right, that's a joke, but it feels like it. um, yeah, that's kind of it. We'll see when Russia does the nuclear test. Um, they'll probably do it live. I don't know, unless they want to record it and then show it. Um, but that's probably going to cause an earthquake in Russia. But remember, Russia's been testing some stuff the past few months. Russia had recorded the largest earthquake ever recorded in history, or like the third one. And then 1 month later, the same thing happened at almost around the same location, which is right by a military base. So they've already probably been practicing. So we'll see when they actually do the test, and we'll see when the United States does the test because Trump said he wants to do a live nuclear test as well. So we probably shouldn't be doing this, but that's what we're doing, apparently. And yeah, so we'll see what happens in Venezuela. Still no word on that Russian military plane that went down in Sudan. We'll see what happens there. And we'll see if Ukraine does the false flag. Um, and Israel with Iran. So basically, keep your eye on Ukraine with their false flag, and keep an eye on Israel with their false flag, and possibly the United States with Venezuela. I mean, the CIA is very involved in this Venezuela operation, and the CIA has already been caught trying to do false flags in Venezuela. So, and also the civil war that's happening in the GOP in regards to Israel first, America first. Keep an eye on that as well, because if enough people talk or speak against Israel first, don't be surprised if Israel does an operation like a false flag just to get the media off that topic. So, a lot of false flag watching right now. That's just the reality of the time we're in right now. And Trump has to be very careful. If he wants to strike Venezuela, he better do it quick and easy and then bring everyone home. Same with Nigeria. Because if the CIA can get away with something, they will. So, Trump has to be careful. By the way, Tulsi Gabbard already had a press conference a month or two ago before the Iran strikes. And she said, without a shadow of a doubt, Iran is not trying to make a nuclear capable missile. So don't believe Israel when they tell you that again in the next few months. Or they might just do a false flag themselves because that narrative is no longer working. So again, a lot of false flag to look at, a lot of different countries that are planning these. The best case scenario would be Trump strikes Venezuela and leaves, and nothing else happens. And Maduro stops some drug production, even though that's not the main reason. And then Israel stops striking, and they don't do a false flag on Iran, and they don't do a false flag here with the GOP. So, and then Nigeria, hopefully the government can do something there. If all those things happen, then we're fine. But, you know, don't be surprised when people who have a history of having successful false flags try to do it again. So that's just where we're at. That's just the time we're in. I wish I could say everything's great and nothing to worry about, but a lot of stuff to keep an eye on. A lot of stuff to keep our eye on. So that's about it. If anything major happens, I'll let you know. Till then, have a good day.